President Zelensky's Chief of Staff. Sergei, thanks so much for taking the time this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you hear a Russian military commander there saying that they will guarantee the safety of the people there to let them escape that steel plant in Mariupol. Do you believe that pledge?
Their plan is to take them as hostages. And of course, the Ukrainian soldiers not ready to give up. So their proposal is give up, and you're going to be in prison in Russia maybe after this. Of course, Ukrainian soldiers are going to fight until the end.
Now,
what our view on this, that it has to be humanitarian corridor for Ukrainians to leave to Ukrainian territory controlled by Kiev government, not to Russia.
Now that's for the civilians there. You heard the military commander in the steel plant ask for some kind of third country monitored path out for the soldiers as well. Are there any serious discussions? Is there any country that's offered to do this?
Ukrainian proposal is that global leaders, presidents, if they would be guarantors of these corridors, if they can be present in Mariupol or somewhere to arrange this corridor, it would be great. But frankly speaking, as for today, we have maybe something going on in Kiev because we are in Lviv now. We have to understand this. But our proposal is open. And I know we called to some global leaders to play this role to guarantee that people who are hostages in Mariupol, they can safely leave factory.
We see situations like this virtually every day in this country. People attacked or surrounded, deliberately targeted by the Russian military, and many of them are dying. Hundreds and hundreds are dying.
It's a horrible war.
You hear the world protest, but not stop it. And I want to ask you to listen, because I asked the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations yesterday about this disconnect. Public complaints, but no action to stop it. Have a listen. I want to get your reaction. If the UN cannot stop a war in the 21st century in which we're witnessing war crimes perhaps every day here, if it cannot do that, what is the UN's true influence today?
That's an extraordinarily important question, and it's one that we grapple with every single day at the United Nations. But we do have the power. We have the power to blunt the Russian veto. We have the power to isolate Russia, which we have successfully done over the course of this war. We have isolated them in the Security Council and, as you know, in the General Assembly.
Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield there. So she says Russia is being isolated. Is that enough?
It's not enough. We are calling to recognize Russia as a terrorist state. And I'm part of working group in our Office of President, together with Head of Staff, Mr. Yermak, and prominent American diplomat and analyst Mike McFaul. He used to be ambassador to Moscow. And we prepared a roadmap, action plan to impose stronger sanctions on Russia and to avoid the loopholes. And one of the proposals is to recognize Russia as a terrorist state. Terrorist state means it's blockage of transaction. It's much more difficult way for Russia to earn money and to spend money, which means for Russian budget less money for army to kill Ukrainians. This paper's going to be presented today in Kiev and by Mark McFaul in Stanford. And we believe that all global leaders should carefully read this document and implement stronger sanctions on Russia, because I think sanctions is one of the main instruments to stop this war, sanctions and weapons.
We are seeing both Ukrainians and the U.S. and others preparing for an even bloodier phase of this conflict in eastern Ukraine. And now we see an urgent effort to get new and different kinds of weapons there, particularly artillery. Now, do Ukrainian forces have enough in the east to hold off the Russian advance as they did around Kiev?
You know, it's a situation when we need as much weapons as possible, so it's never enough. And I recall one of the statements of Ukrainian President Zelensky to global leaders on the meeting saying that you send us weapons. We very much appreciate it. But you believe these weapons are going to be enough for 1 week of war. But we spend these weapons during 20 hours. So please consider that this is very brutal war, very bloody war, and we have to defend our territory with these weapons. So we need more weapons to not only Ukraine, but to defend the global order, to defend democracy.
Is there a particular category of weapon that you believe you are missing to help defend, particularly in this new fighting in the east?
Artillery, heavy weapons. So it's going to be a real battle. And this battle going to start soon, or even it started already, because Russia collected enough army, enough weapons to start this war, and we consider that this global battle started already. But, the dynamic can be very different. It depends on weather, it depends on the motivation of soldiers, it depends on different points. That is why we're still looking for more weapons to be supplied to Ukraine. And at the same time, we see that Russia attacked Lviv. And one of the reasons, I believe, to destroy a railway infrastructure, which is one of the paths for weapons to be delivered. And that is why it has to be done as soon as possible.
Sergei Leshchenko, we know you have a great deal of work to do.
Thank you
We
very
wish you the
much.
best of luck. Thanks for joining us this
Thank you.
morning.